When we think of breakfast, oatmeal, eggs, bacon, what comes to mind? Energy, comfort, maybe even health. But the truth is, the answer to whether these foods heal us or hurt us isn't black and white. It depends on how we eat them, how often, and in what context. A's a physician and researcher. I've spent my life studying how the foods we eat impact our biology. And I'm here to tell you this: every bite you take is either fighting disease. Food is not just fuel, it's medicine or poison. This idea challenges one of the most deeply rooted assumptions in modern eating culture. For many people, food is primarily thought of as energy, something to keep us going throughout the day. Calories in, calories out, eat to survive, eat to move. But this outdated view overlooks something far more powerful and scientifically proven: the biological impact of food on our health. Every bite of food we take sets off a cascade of biochemical reactions in our bodies, influencing inflammation, immunity, cellular repair, and even the way our genes express themselves. In this light, food becomes much more than a source of calories. It becomes a biological signal that can either promote health or push us toward disease. Modern nutritional science has confirmed what ancient healing systems have suggested for centuries. Food has the power to heal, but just as it can heal, it can also harm. The same fork that feeds us can nourish our immune system or feed chronic inflammation. The key lies in the choices we make and how frequently we make them. Think about it. The average person eats over 1,000 meals a year. That's more than 1,000 opportunities to either heal or hurt the body, and the difference isn't always obvious. It often comes down to subtle, accumulative effects. Foods that may seem harmless or even healthy can over time trigger biological processes that lead to chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Let's take an example. Eating a breakfast that includes ultra-processed cereal bars, sugar, sweetened oatmeal packets, or bacon every morning might not seem like a big deal. But these foods can be high in refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and inflammatory fats. Consumed repeatedly, they can create a chronic state of low-grade inflammation in the body. That inflammation damages blood vessels, destabilizes insulin levels, and disrupts the microbiome. And yet, on the surface, it doesn't feel like much. You're full, you're moving through your day. But inside your body, microdamage is building slowly, quietly. Compare that to a breakfast rich in whole grains, healthy fats, plant-based fibers, and antioxidants. Imagine starting your day with steel-cut oats topped with fresh berries and walnuts, or an avocado spread on whole grain toast with a poached egg. These foods actively fight inflammation, feed beneficial gut bacteria, and support vascular health. You haven't just fueled your body, you've sent healing signals into your bloodstream. This is where the phrase "food is medicine" becomes more than a metaphor. We now have clinical studies showing that certain foods can activate our body's defense systems: angiogenesis, the process that grows healthy blood vessels; stem cell regeneration, which repairs damaged tissue; and DNA protection, which prevents cellular mutations. These are not abstract processes. They are measurable, trackable, and influenced directly by what we eat. A tomato isn't just a tomato. It contains lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that reduces oxidative stress. A cup of green tea contains catechins that help suppress tumor growth. A handful of almonds improves endothelial function. These aren't supplements. These are whole foods, operating like medicine without the side effects. On the flip side, just as some foods activate healing, others switch it off. Processed meats like bacon and sausage are classified by the World Health Organization as Group 1 carcinogens, the same category as asbestos and tobacco smoke. This doesn't mean eating one strip of bacon will give you cancer, but it does mean that regular consumption increases your risk, especially when combined with other unhealthy lifestyle choices. Foods high in refined sugars and trans fats don't just lead to weight gain, they actively interfere with immune function and create a metabolic environment that favors disease. When we start thinking about food in this way, the grocery store becomes a pharmacy, the kitchen becomes a clinic, every meal becomes an opportunity to rewrite our health story, and we begin to recognize that the most powerful intervention isn't a pill, it's our plate. Too often, people wait until illness strikes before they start caring about what they eat. But by then, the damage is already underway. Prevention is where food has its greatest power. It doesn't just reduce the risk of disease, it builds resilience, cellular by cellular, system by system. Understanding the dual nature of food is a shift in perspective, but it's a necessary one. Especially in a world where chronic diseases are rising and health systems are overwhelmed, the idea that our daily choices can make a difference is both revolutionary and empowering. When we choose foods that activate healing systems, foods rich in fiber, antioxidants, healthy fats, and plant-based nutrients, we are making micro decisions that have macro impact. Over time, these decisions shape our health trajectory. They influence how we age, how we fight infections, how we feel, and how we perform. Oatmeal is often hailed as a healthy breakfast staple. Walk down any grocery aisle or browse a wellness blog and you'll find oatmeal promoted as the perfect way to start your day. It's associated with heart health, weight management, and digestive wellness. But the truth is more nuanced. Oatmeal can indeed be a healing food, but in many cases, it becomes a hidden sugar trap that does more harm than good. The key lies not just in the oats themselves, but in how they're processed, prepared, and paired with other ingredients. At its core, oats are a whole grain. They contain soluble fiber, particularly beta-glucan, which has been scientifically shown to lower LDL cholesterol and support gut health by feeding beneficial bacteria in the microbiome. Beta-glucan also helps regulate blood sugar levels by slowing the absorption of glucose in the gut, making oats a valuable tool in managing insulin sensitivity. In their least processed forms, steel, cut, or whole oats have a low glycemic load and digest slowly, providing sustained energy and reducing the risk of blood sugar spikes. This kind of oatmeal supports healing. It reduces inflammation, promotes satiety, and fuels the body with complex carbohydrates that are both energizing and stabilizing. However, most people are not eating oats in their whole, intact form. What we often see instead is instant oatmeal, pre-flavored packets, and sugary oat-based snacks. These are not the same as traditional oats. Instant oats are pre-cooked, thinly rolled, and dehydrated so they can be prepared quickly with hot water or milk. In the process of making them faster cooked, they also become faster to digest, which raises their glycemic index. This means they cause a quicker spike in blood sugar and insulin, something that is counterproductive for people trying to manage diabetes, metabolic syndrome, or even low energy throughout the day. Then comes the sugar. Pre-flavored oatmeal packets are often loaded with added sugar, sometimes up to 12 grams or more per serving, which is equivalent to 3 teaspoons. These sugars might come from brown sugar, cane syrup, or fruit concentrates, all of which rapidly enter the bloodstream and trigger inflammatory responses. And because many people assume they're making a healthy choice, they eat these products every day, not realizing they're turning a potentially healing meal into a daily dose of metabolic stress. Even natural variations with dried fruits can be misleading. These are often sweetened further and lack the water content of fresh fruit, making their sugars more concentrated and glycemic impact higher. There's also the issue of portion distortion. People trying to bulk up their oatmeal for more energy or satiety may inadvertently add sweetened nut butters, granola, maple syrup, or chocolate chips, turning a simple bowl into a sugar-laden dessert. These additions may taste good, but they shift the biochemical effect of the meal from anti-inflammatory to pro-inflammatory. What was once a food that nourishes the gut microbiome and calms blood sugar now becomes a contributor to metabolic imbalance, weight gain, and increased cardiovascular risk. It's not just about the oats, it's about the company they keep. Understanding how to prepare oatmeal in a healing way starts with choosing the right kind of oats. Steel, cut oats, rolls, or oat groats should be prioritized over instant varieties. Cooking them with water or unsweetened plant-based milk keeps them neutral in glycemic impact. Instead of sweeteners, use spices like cinnamon or nutmeg, which add flavor without sugar and offer their own health benefits. Fresh fruits like berries, apples, or bananas can provide natural sweetness and are also rich in fiber, antioxidants, and phytonutrients that work synergistically with oats to reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. The temperature at which oatmeal is cooked can also affect its digestibility and nutrient release. Slow cooking methods preserve more of the oat's integrity and make the fiber more bioavailable to the gut microbiome. Adding a source of healthy fat, such as a handful of nuts or seeds, further slows digestion and increases nutrient absorption. These small changes can dramatically alter the biological impact of oatmeal, turning it back into the powerful healing food it was meant to be. Marketing often misleads consumers into believing that all oat products are equally healthy, but the truth is that processed oat snacks, oat-based granola bars, and healthy oatmeal cookies are often high in added sugars, refined oils, and preservatives. These ingredients undermine the benefits of oats and contribute to the epidemic of chronic inflammation in the modern diet. Just because a product contains oats does not make it a health food. It is the total nutrient profile, the quality of the ingredients, and the method of preparation that determine whether oatmeal is healing or harmful. The scientific community now recognizes that chronic low-grade inflammation is at the root of nearly all non-communicable diseases. What you eat for breakfast is not trivial. It sets the tone for your day's metabolism, your mental clarity, and your immune system's activity. A breakfast that spikes your blood sugar and increases inflammation may leave you hungrier, more fatigued, and less able to concentrate, even if it seemed healthy on the surface. The goal is not to abandon oatmeal, but to reclaim it, to strip away the added sugars, artificial flavors, and marketing gimmicks, and return to a food that, when respected and prepared properly, can be one of the most powerful tools in your nutritional toolbox. Longevity. For decades, dietary guidelines cautioned against consuming too many eggs, particularly the yolks, because of their high cholesterol content. One large egg contains about 18.6 milligrams of cholesterol, all found in the yolk. This led to widespread that eggs would raise blood cholesterol levels and increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. As a result, egg whites became popularized and whole eggs were viewed with suspicion by the health-conscious public. However, more recent scientific research has challenged and, in many cases, overturned this simplistic narrative. The current understanding of dietary cholesterol is far more nuanced. For most people, a dietary cholesterol has a relatively small impact on blood cholesterol levels. In fact, the body tightly regulates its own cholesterol production, and when we consume more cholesterol from food, the liver compensates by producing less. The bigger culprits in raising harmful cholesterol and promoting inflammation are actually trans fats, excess saturated and refined carbohydrates, not dietary cholesterol from whole foods like eggs. Eggs are a rich source of essential nutrients that support many of the body's healing systems. The yolk contains choline, a nutrient critical for brain development, memory, and liver function. Choline also plays a role in reducing homocysteine levels, a marker associated with increased cardiovascular risk, are also high in lutein and zeaxanthin, antioxidants that protect the eyes from age-related macular degeneration and oxidative stress. These compounds are concentrated in the yolk, not the white, making whole eggs significantly more nutrient-dense than egg whites alone. In addition to these nutrients, eggs are a complete protein source. They contain all 9 essential amino acids in the right ratios needed for muscle repair, immune function, and cellular regeneration. For people looking to support healing, whether recovering from illness, surgery, or simply managing chronic inflammation, this high-quality protein can be a key asset. The protein in eggs is highly bioavailable, meaning the body can absorb and use it efficiently. This makes eggs particularly valuable for older adults, athletes, and anyone with increased protein needs. Yet not all eggs are created equal. The nutritional value of an egg can vary dramatically depending on how the hen was raised and what it was fed. Conventional eggs from caged hens, often from birds fed a grain-based diet high in omega-6 fatty acids. These eggs tend to have a skewed fatty acid profile that can contribute to inflammation when consumed regularly. In contrast, pasture-raised eggs, which come from hens that are allowed to roam outdoors and eat a natural diet including grass and insects, have significantly higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and antioxidants. The color of the yolk, often a deeper orange in pasture-raised eggs, reflects a higher concentration of carotenoids and nutrients. The method of preparation plays a crucial role in determining whether eggs promote healing or harm. When eggs are boiled, poached, or lightly scrambled, they retain most of their nutrients and do not introduce harmful compounds. However, when eggs are fried in processed oils or served alongside baked sausage and refined bread, the health equation changes dramatically. The context in which eggs are consumed, their nutritional company, can either amplify their benefits or diminish them. Eating eggs with vegetables, avocado, or whole grains enhances their healing properties, while pairing them with pro-inflammatory foods contributes to disease risk. There are also individual differences to consider. Some people, known as hyper-responders, do experience a notable rise in blood cholesterol after consuming direct cholesterol. For these individuals, moderation may be necessary, and the quality of the overall diet becomes even more important. But for the vast majority of people, whole eggs can be included as part of a balanced, nutrient-dense diet without increasing cardiovascular risk. In fact, studies have shown that moderate egg consumption, up to 1 egg per day, is not associated with increased risk of heart disease in healthy individuals and may even be protective in some populations. The fear surrounding eggs largely stemmed from outdated science and an oversimplified view of nutrition. We now understand that food should be evaluated not just by isolated components like cholesterol, but by their full nutrient profile, how they affect the body's systems, and how they fit into an overall dietary pattern. In this more comprehensive framework, eggs emerge not as a food to be feared, but as a food with remarkable healing potential. They support brain function, the eye health, muscle maintenance, and cellular repair. They are accessible, affordable, and versatile, making them one of the most practical superfoods available to the average person. The shift in understanding about eggs reflects a broader transformation in nutritional science, from a focus on reductionism and fear-based guidelines to a more holistic, evidence-based approach that considers how real, whole foods impact the body in dynamic ways. Eggs are not just about cholesterol, they are about synergy. They are a prime example of how whole foods, when respected and prepared properly, can become a tool for healing and long-term vitality. Bacon is one of the most iconic and beloved breakfast foods in many cultures. Crisp, salty, rich in flavor, and deeply tied to tradition, nostalgia, and comfort. For many, the aroma of sizzling bacon in the morning is not just food, it's an experience. But beneath the powerful culture lies a health reality that demands honest attention. Bacon as processed meat carries with it significant risks that go beyond its taste and texture. Understanding the biological consequences of eating bacon regularly is essential in a world where chronic disease is increasingly linked to everyday dietary habits. Processed meats, including bacon, have been extensively studied for their effects on human health. The World Health Organization has classified processed meats as Group 1 carcinogens, meaning there is sufficient evidence to conclude they cause cancer in humans. This classification is based primarily on strong data linking regular consumption meats to an increased risk of colorectal cancer. The risk is not theoretical or exaggerated. It is supported by multiple large-scale epidemiological studies that a clear and consistent association. The nitrates and nitrates used in curing bacon can form nitrosamines in the body, compounds known to be carcinogenic. These chemicals are not destroyed during cooking and are a primary reason for bacon's health risks. Beyond cancer, bacon contributes to other chronic diseases due to its high content of sodium, saturated fat, and preservatives. A typical serving of bacon contains a significant amount of sodium, which can contribute to hypertension, a major risk factor for stroke and heart disease. In a single morning meal, someone could consume over a third of their recommended sodium intake just from bacon alone. This excess sodium doesn't just elevate blood pressure, it also damages the inner lining of blood vessels, contributing to arterial stiffness and inflammation. The saturated fat found in bacon, particularly when consumed in large amounts or alongside other unhealthy foods, you can further increase LDL cholesterol levels and promote the development of atherosclerosis. There's also advanced glycation end products, compounds formed when meat is cooked at high temperatures, such as pan frying or grilling bacon. AGs contribute to oxidative stress and inflammation and are associated with aging and the progression of degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and kidney dysfunction. When bacon is crisped to perfection, it may also be contributing to the breakdown of internal systems meant to keep the body in balance. These effects are not always immediate, but they accumulate with time and regular exposure. Despite these health warnings, bacon remains a part of many people's daily or weekly routine. This is partly due to its addictive qualities. Bacon's flavor profile is a result of the Maillard reaction, which occurs during cooking and produces hundreds of volatile compounds that stimulate the senses. Combined with its salt and fat content, bacon activates reward centers in the brain, making it more difficult to consume in moderation. Its frequent pairing with other high-calorie, low-nutrient foods, such as white bread, processed cheese, and sugary condiments, further compounds its negative health effects. However, it's also important to acknowledge that not all bacon is created equal. Some forms of bacon are produced without added nitrites or nitrates, often marketed as cured or naturally cured. While these versions may appear healthier, truth is more complex. Natural sources of nitrates such as celery powder are still used in these products and can have similar effects when metabolized in the body. Additionally, even nitrate-free bacon still contains high levels of unsaturated fat, and the health risks associated with frequent consumption remain. The cultural hold that bacon has on society often overshadows these facts. It appears in breakfast plates, fast food menus, gourmet burgers, and even desserts. It has been elevated from a side to centerpiece in modern food culture. This elevation makes it harder to question its place in the diet, yet the biological impact of bacon cannot be dismissed simply because it is beloved. The frequency of consumption matters. An occasional indulgence in bacon is unlikely to lead to major health problems in an otherwise balanced diet. But regular intake, especially as part of an overall inflammatory dietary pattern, can tip the scales toward chronic disease. Some argue that bacon can be part of a keto or low-carb diet aimed at weight loss or insulin regulation. While it's true that bacon contains little no carbohydrates, the broader impact on heart health, inflammation, and long-term disease must be considered. A ketogenic diet that prioritizes whole, unprocessed sources of fat and protein, like avocado, nuts, seeds, and oily fish, offers many of the same metabolic benefits without the carcinogenic and inflammatory burden associated with processed meats. Examining the health implications of bacon requires looking beyond its flavor and tradition. It requires asking what it does inside the body, but not just how it makes us feel in the moment, how it shapes our risk profile over time. Bacon, in its most common form, just a food, it's a delivery system for multiple biological stressors, sodium overload, saturated fat, carcinogenic compounds, and oxidative agents. Each of these stressors acts subtly, quietly, and cumulatively. And while the human body is incredibly resilient, its healing systems are not invincible. They can be overwhelmed by constant exposure to foods that disrupt its natural balance. Dose matters. It's not what you eat, it's how often. This principle is fundamental to understanding how food impacts our biology over time. In the world of nutrition, many debates focus on whether a particular food is good or bad, eat healthy or healthy. But these labels are often too rigid and ignore the complexity of human metabolism. The truth is, almost any food can be healing or harmful depending on the content, the portion size, and critically, the frequency of consumption. Our bodies are highly adaptive, capable of managing a wide range of dietary inputs. But when certain foods are consumed habitually, especially in excess, they can tip internal systems into imbalance, leading to inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and chronic disease. Take sugar as a simple example. A small piece of dark chocolate once in a while, especially when paired with a nutrient-dense meal, may not have a significant effect on health. It can even contribute to emotional satisfaction and stress reduction. But when sugar shows up several times a day, hidden in cereals, dressings, beverages, snacks, and sauces, it becomes a constant assault on blood sugar regulation, triggering insulin spikes, fat storage, and eventually insulin resistance. It's not the occasional indulgence that drives disease. It's the cumulative, repetitive exposure that turns a simple molecule into a chronic burden on the body. The same rule applies to foods like red meat, refined grains, alcohol, or even ultra-processed plant-based snacks. A glass of wine once a week may have minimal or even potentially beneficial cardiovascular effects, but a nightly habit builds a completely different internal environment, increasing liver stress, systemic inflammation, and cancer risk. Portion and frequency shape the biochemical reality of a person's body far more than isolated ingredients or single meals. In this way, dose operates much like medication. A therapeutic dose can heal, a deficient dose may do nothing, and a toxic dose can cause harm. Food follows this same pharmacological logic. Modern food marketing and packaging make it easy to forget this. Supersized portions and family-sized snacks normalize excess. A convenience food designed to be consumed quickly and frequently, with little regard for the long-term consequences. Ultra-processed items are engineered to be hyper-palatable, bypassing the brain's natural satiety signals and encouraging overconsumption. They don't just appear once in a diet, they become dietary staples. And this habitual repetition is what makes even seemingly minor ingredients dangerous over time. Sodium, for example, is essential for fluid balance and nerve function, but high levels across multiple meals every day contribute to hypertension, kidney stress, and heart disease. The problem isn't sodium, it's the chronic overdosing of it through processed foods. Even beneficial foods follow the same rule. While vegetables, legumes, and fruits are undeniably health-promoting, relying on a narrow group of them or consuming them in unbalanced ways can limit their benefits. For instance, eating the same salad every might not expose the body to the diverse range of polyphenols, fibers, and nutrients needed to optimally support gut microbiota and immune function. A variety in moderation with even healthy food choices ensure that no single nutrient is over or underrepresented. Food diversity over time mirrors the biodiversity needed in an ecosystem for long-term resilience and balance. Intermittent patterns also affect how food is processed. The body's response to eating changes based on timing and rhythm. Frequent snacking throughout the day, regardless of calorie content, prevents the body from entering periods of metabolic rest, disrupting insulin cycles and interfering with processes like autophagy, which clears out damaged cells. Spacing meals and allowing the body to process and reset between eating events can support metabolic flexibility, improve energy levels, and reduce inflammation. It's not only about what is eaten, but when and how regularly it's consumed. These patterns, repeated daily, form the foundation for either resilience or breakdown in cellular systems. The cultural shift toward mindfulness in eating is, in part, a response to this understanding. When people pay attention to frequency, how often they reach for sugar, how often they eat out, how often they skip vegetables, they begin to see patterns that may be undermining their health despite good intentions. The act of noticing frequency enables more strategic food decisions. It puts control back into the hands of the eater. No one needs to fear a slice of cake at a celebration, a strip bacon at brunch, or a late-night snack on occasion. But when those choices become routine, when indulgence a daily default, that's when the biological consequences accumulate and overwhelm the body's built-in healing mechanisms. Human biology thrives on balance. The immune system, the cardiovascular system, the brain all function best under conditions that allow for occasional challenge and also recovery. Just as physical stress from exercise can strengthen the body when followed by rest, the dietary stress must be balanced with periods of nutritional support. The dose, frequency, and overall pattern play a more significant role than most people realize. Foods do not act in isolation, they act in sequence and repetition, and in concert with our routines and behaviors. The question is not only what you're eating, but how often you let it enter your body, influence your metabolism, and shape your internal landscape. Your microbiome is listening to your breakfast. This concept may sound poetic, but it is grounded in hard science. The human microbiome, a vast community of trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi living primarily in the gut, plays a critical role in nearly every aspect of health. These microorganisms are not passive passengers in the body. They are active participants in digestion, immune regulation, hormone balance, and even mental well-being. What you eat each morning directly influences which microbial species flourish and which ones fade, and over time, these patterns shape the internal environment of your entire body. Each meal acts like a broadcast signal to your gut microbes. Some foods promote the growth of beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, regulate inflammation, and strengthen the gut barrier. Others feed harmful microbes that generate endotoxins, increase gut permeability, and trigger systemic inflammation. The composition of your breakfast: fiber-rich versus processed, plant-based versus animal-heavy, diverse versus monotonous, can initiate vastly different microbial responses that ripple through your digestive and immune system and brain. For example, starting your day with oatmeal topped with fresh berries, chia seeds, and walnuts provides fermentable fiber, polyphenols, and omega-3 fatty acids, all of which support the growth of beneficial gut bacteria like Eutaphytobacteria and E. lactobacillus. These bacteria help produce short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, which reduce inflammation, support the integrity of the gut lining, and even help regulate mood and cognitive function through the gut-brain axis. On the other hand, a breakfast of refined flour pancakes with syrup, processed breakfast meats, and sugary drinks feeds a completely different microbial population. These microbes are more likely to contribute to metabolic endotoxemia, condition where bacterial fragments from the leak into the bloodstream and spark chronic inflammation. The microbiome is highly dynamic and responds rapidly to dietary changes. In fact, studies have shown that switching from a plant-based, high-fiber diet to a high-fat, high-sugar Western diet can shift microbial composition in as little as 24 to 48 hours. This means that your breakfast is not only fueling your immediate energy needs, it is continuously shaping the microbial ecosystem that will influence your health outcomes over the long term. A breakfast that feeds microbial diversity supports resilience, while a breakfast that promotes monoculture and inflammation reduces the gut's adaptive potential. One of the most important ways to support microbial health is through dietary fiber. Unfortunately, most modern breakfasts are fiber deficient. Refined cereals, white bread, and fast food options store the fibrous components of whole foods, depriving gut microbes of their primary energy source. Without adequate fiber, beneficial bacteria starve and decline in number, while opportunistic pathogens may thrive. Fiber doesn't just help with regularity, it is essential for microbial metabolism and the production of healing compounds within the gut. Including fiber-rich foods like whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds in your morning meal sets a positive tone for microbial activity throughout the day. Fermented foods are another powerful tool for nourishing the microbiome. A breakfast that includes kefir, yogurt with live cultures, or even a small fermented vegetables can introduce live probiotic strains that compete with harmful microbes and enhance gut integrity. These foods help maintain a balanced microbial environment and may even improve nutrient absorption and immune function. Contrast this with ultra-processed breakfast options, which often contain emulsifiers, preservatives, and artificial sweeteners known to disrupt the microbial ecosystem and contribute to gut dysbiosis. Even the diversity of foods eaten at breakfast matters. Microbial diversity thrives on dietary diversity. Rotating different fruits, grains, and protein sources provides a broader spectrum of nutrients and prebiotics to support a more robust microbiome. Routines that rely on the same processed foods every morning limit microbial diversity and contribute to a more fragile internal ecosystem. Just as a rainforest needs different species to stay resilient, the gut needs a wide variety of foods to stay strong and responsive to challenges. There is also growing recognition of how the microbiome influences mental health. The gut-brain axis is a two-way communication system where gut microbes send signals to the brain via the vagus nerve, immune pathways, and neurotransmitter production. A breakfast that feeds a healthy microbiome can increase the production of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, chemicals involved in mood regulation, focus, and stress response. Conversely, poor microbial health has been linked to depression, anxiety, your cognitive decline, your emotional well-being may very well be tied to the microbial conversation that begins with your first meal. Circadian rhythms also play a role in microbial function. Eating a consistent, nourishing breakfast at the same time each day supports the natural rhythms of the microbiome. Irregular meal timing or skipping breakfast can disrupt these rhythms, leading to impaired glucose metabolism and reduced microbial efficiency. Timing matters not just for energy levels but for microbial harmony. What you eat each morning becomes part of a dialogue with the invisible ecosystem inside you. It determines whether the bacteria helping you heal will thrive or whether the ones contributing to disease will take over. This internal feedback loop operates every single day, beginning with the choices made at breakfast. Anti-inflammatory eating starts with awareness. Before a single food is chosen or a meal is prepared, the body's relationship with inflammation is already being influenced by long-standing habits and unconscious choices. Inflammation itself is not inherently harmful. It is the body's natural defense mechanism, a short-term response to injury or infection that promotes healing. But when inflammation becomes chronic, simmering silently within tissues, organs, and blood vessels, it begins to erode health from the inside out. This kind of low-grade systemic inflammation is now understood as a common thread running through many of the most serious chronic diseases, including heart disease, cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative conditions, and autoimmune disorders. The foods eaten every day, especially the ones most frequently and in large quantities, either add fuel to the inflammatory fire or help to extinguish it. Most people are not actively trying to inflame their bodies, but without awareness, it's easy to do. Processed breakfast cereals, sweetened yogurts, flavored oatmeals, breakfast pastries, and fried foods are commonly consumed in the morning, often marketed as quick or wholesome. Yet many of these items are high in refined carbohydrates, added sugared fats, and artificial additives, all known contributors to inflammation. These ingredients alter blood sugar levels and interfere with hormone signaling and disrupt the balance of gut microbes, which in turn affects immune regulation and inflammatory pathways. The act of eating such foods is not just about flavor or convenience. It is a biological signal to the body's immune and metabolic systems. Anti-inflammatory eating begins by recognizing these signals and choosing to send different ones. Awareness means reading ingredient labels, understanding where added sugars hide, and learning to identify sources of healthy fats like trans fats and certain refined oils. It means questioning food norms that have been accepted for generations, such as the idea that a donut and coffee constitute an acceptable breakfast. It means becoming curious about how food makes you feel, not just immediately after eating, but hours later. Whether it leaves you energized and focused, or fatigued and irritable, these subjective experiences are often the first signs of whether inflammation is being calmed or activated. One of the most powerful tools in reducing inflammation through diet is the consistent inclusion of whole, unprocessed plant-based vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices can contain a wide array of phytonutrients that actively combat oxidative stress, a key driver of inflammation. Polyphenols, flavonoids, carotenoids, and other bioactive compounds found in colorful foods regulate the expression of genes involved in inflammatory processes. They also feed the gut microbiome, supporting the growth of anti-inflammatory bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. These beneficial metabolites reinforce the gut lining, modulate immune function, and reduce the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Health fats also play a crucial role. Omega-3 fatty acids found in foods like flax seeds, walnuts, chia, and fatty fish are well documented in their ability to reduce systemic inflammation. They help balance the ratio of omega-3 fats in the body, a ratio that is often distorted by the modern Western diet, which is overloaded with omega-6 rich vegetable oils and processed snacks. Bringing this ratio back into balance through mindful food choices lowers the production of inflammatory molecules like prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Equally important is the avoidance of ingredients that are known to promote inflammation. Refined grains, such as those found in white bread, pastries, and many breakfast cereals, are stripped of fiber and nutrients and converted quickly into glucose, leading to spikes in blood sugar and insulin. These spikes activate inflammatory pathways and over contribute to insulin resistance. Similarly, trans fats, still present in some packaged foods under misleading labels, disrupt endothelial function and raise levels of inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, CRPF. Spices and herbs are another often overlooked source of anti-inflammatory power. Turmeric, cinnamon, rosemary, and garlic contain compounds that inhibit key enzymes involved in the inflammation cascade. Including these regularly in morning meals or beverages can subtly but powerfully shift the body's inflammatory status. Even something as simple as starting the day with a warm drink made with ginger and lemon, or sprinkling turmeric and black pepper into scrambled eggs or a smoothie can make a biological difference. Hydration also plays a role in modulating inflammation. Dehydration thickens the blood and concentrates inflammatory molecules, placing stress on the cardiovascular system and impeding cellular repair. Many people wake up in a mildly dehydrated state, and choosing water or herbal teas over sugary juices or caffeinated energy drinks can support the body's natural detoxification and inflammatory resolution processes. Stress, sleep, and movement also influence how food affects inflammation. A perfectly anti-inflammatory meal consumed in a stress, sleep deprivation, or physical inactivity may not yield its full benefits. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, increases in response to both emotional and physical stressors and enhances inflammatory signaling. A more holistic awareness includes not only what is on the plate, but also how and when it is consumed, and whether the body is in a state to process it effectively. The most powerful nutrition plan is not built in the grocery store or the kitchen, it's built in the mind. The way a person thinks about food, health, and healing determines the long-term success or failure of any dietary change. Before oats are poured into a bowl, before bacon hits a pan, before eggs are cracked or fruit is sliced, that decision is not just about hunger or taste, it's shaped by years of beliefs, habits, emotions, and subconscious associations. Food is not only fuel, it's identity, memory, culture, reward, and coping mechanism. Transforming the way we eat requires transforming the way we think. Many people approach food from a place of guilt or confusion. They bounce between trends, diets, unsure of what is truly good for them. One day, it's low fat, the next it's high fat. One week sugar is the enemy, the next it's grains or gluten. This mental noise, a constant state of nutritional anxiety where choices feel like moral decisions rather than biological ones. In that state, even healthy eating becomes stressful, but stress itself alters metabolism, digestion, and inflammation. It clouds judgment, fuels craving, keeps people locked in cycles of restriction and relapse. Healing begins when clarity replaces confusion, when eating becomes a conscious, a grounded act, not a reactive one. The malaise an even deeper role in food behavior through patterns of emotional eating. Stress, sadness, loneliness, boredom, and even happiness can trigger eating behaviors that have little to do with physiological hunger. Many people reach for food not because their body needs nutrients, but because their mind is searching for comfort, distraction, or stimulation. This is not a character flaw, it is a deeply human response. The brain is wired to seek relief from discomfort in food, especially foods high in sugar, salt, and fat offers quick neurochemical rewards. But these rewards are fleeting, and the consequences often long-lasting. Learning to recognize the emotional drivers of food choices is essential for lasting change. It means building emotional literacy alongside nutritional literacy, developing the tools to pause, reflect, choose different. Mindset also governs consistency, which is the foundation of any healing process. One healthy meal will not reverse chronic inflammation. One day of clean eating will not reprogram the microbiome. One choice may start a journey, but it is the accumulation of choices that determines the destination. A mindset rooted in discipline and self-respect, not punishment or perfectionism, allows for sustainable progress. It recognizes that setbacks are part of the process and that the real transformation happens not when everything goes according to plan, but when someone chooses to return to their path after slipping. This mental resilience is more important than any superfood or supplement. Without it, even the most perfect is fragile. Clarity of purpose is another mental anchor in nutritional healing. When people connect their food choices to something bigger than weight loss, such as longevity, energy, freedom from medication, or the ability to show up fully for loved ones, they tap into deeper motivation. A food stops being about short-term gratification and becomes an act of self-respect, even self-love. This shift changes the entire experience of eating. A bowl of greens is no longer a sacrifice, it's a gift to the body. Skipping the bacon isn't a punishment, it's a decision to protect the arteries, the brain, and the future. When motivation is rooted in clarity and values, discipline becomes easier, almost automatic. Awareness also creates from curiosity and experimentation. Nutrition is not a one-size-fits-all prescription. Different bodies respond differently to the same foods, depending on genetics, microbiome, lifestyle, and history. A growth mindset allows people to observe how they feel after eating certain meals, to track changes in energy, mood, digestion, or sleep, and to adjust accordingly. It encourages questions like, how do I feel after a high-fiber breakfast versus a high-fat one? What happens when I reduce processed foods for a week? This experimental approach builds confidence and insight, making each person the expert of their own biology. That is far more empowering than relying on external rules or fads. The social dimension of mindset cannot be overlooked. The people around us, family, friends, coworkers, shape food choices through shared routines, celebrations, peer pressure, or support. A strong mindset can help navigate these dynamics with grace, setting boundaries without alienation. It allows someone to say no to a sugary snack without judgment, to bring their own nourishing meal to a gathering, or to inspire others through quiet consistency. This is not about superiority. It is about alignment with personal goals and values, and the mental strength to stay true to them in any environment. Ultimately, the mind governs the fork. It decides whether food is used for healing or harm, for fuel or escape, for nourishment or numbing. The most healing foods in the world will have little effect if chosen without awareness, consistency, or emotional grounding. But even modest dietary improvements can become powerful when driven by clarity, purpose, and self-respect. When the mind is fully engaged in the healing process, the body begins to respond. Change no longer feels like deprivation. It feels like remembering who you really are and what your body deserves.